Hello viewers, and a beautiful day to you. Just when many thought South Africa's anti-migrant demonstrations had reached their peak, one announcement has changed the conversation entirely. The protests are not over, according to Jacinta Zuma, one of the leading voices associated with the movement. The demonstrations will now continue every Thursday. That single declarations transformed what many considered a temporary wave of public anger into something potentially much larger.
For as long as every Thursday is a march.
Is South Africa witnessing the birth of a sustained protest movement, or is the country entering a prolonged period of social tension that could affect businesses, communities, and the economy for months to come? For weeks, South Africa has witnessed growing demonstrations demanding tougher action against African migrants. Protesters argue that African immigrants have placed enormous pressure on public services, employment, opportunities, healthcare facilities, and housing. They insist that government has failed to enforce existing immigration laws and that ordinary South Africans are paying the price. Whether one agrees with those concerns or not, there is little doubt that immigration has become one of the country's most emotionally charged political issues. Now, Jacinta Zuma has signaled that the campaign is moving beyond isolated demonstrations. According to her, the movement intends to continue protesting every Thursday. That changes everything. A single protest can make headlines. A weekly protest becomes a movement. It creates continuity, attracts media attention, and keeps public pressure firmly on government. More importantly, it sends a message that protesters are prepared for a long campaign rather than a short burst of public anger. But this also raises a difficult questions for the South African government. How does a democratic state respond when large sections of its population repeatedly take to the streets over immigration? Governments cannot simply ignore sustained public demonstrations. At the same time, they have a constitutional obligation to protect every person lawfully living within their borders, regardless of nationality. Balancing those responsibilities will become increasingly difficult if weekly protests continue attracting large crowds. South Africa's constitution guarantees citizens the right to peaceful protest. That right is fundamental to every democracy. Citizens have every right to express concerns, criticize government policies, and demand accountability. However, that same constitution also protects the rights of lawful residents, business owners, and foreign nationals who live peacefully within the country. The challenge is ensuring that one constitutional right does not undermine another. Peaceful protest must never become intimidation. Public frustration must never become violence. This debate goes far beyond South Africa. Across Europe, North America, and parts of Africa, immigration has become one of the defining political issues of our time. Governments everywhere are struggling to balance border security, economic realities, humanitarian obligations, and public expectations. South Africa is now confronting the same difficult question. How many migrants can the country absorb? How should undocumented migrants be addressed? And who should bear responsibility when immigration system failed? Supporters of the protest argue that they are demanding nothing more than enforcement of existing laws. They insist their campaign is directed against illegal migration rather than lawful foreign residents. Critics, however, fear that repeated demonstrations could increase tensions within communities and create an atmosphere of fear among migrants, including those legally living and working in South Africa. Can authorities guarantee that every future protest will remain peaceful? That is a question only time can answer. The economic implications cannot be ignored either. South Africa remains Africa's most industrialized economy and an important destination for regional trade and investment. Prolonged demonstrations, particularly if they occur every week, could affect consumer confidence, disrupt businesses, and create uncertainty for investors. Markets value stability. Businesses depend on predictability. Any perception of prolonged unrest inevitably raises concerns about economic confidence, both domestically and internationally. Another concern is regional diplomacy. South Africa is home to millions of foreign nationals from across the African continent. Many arrived legally in search of employment, education, or business opportunities. Others flee economic hardships or political instability in neighboring countries. If tensions continue escalating, governments across the region will be watching developments closely. Some have already organized voluntary repatriation programs for citizens wishing to return home. Could weekly protests encourage more countries to accelerate those efforts? The responsibility now rests heavily on political leaders. Protest organizers must ensure demonstrations remain peaceful and within the law. Governments must listen to legitimate public concerns while protecting constitutional rights. Security agencies must enforce the law impartially, preventing violence regardless of who commits it. And most importantly, public debate must remain focused on policy rather than prejudice. Immigration is a legitimate subject of political discussion. Violence and intimidation are not. Jacinta Zuma's announcement marks a significant moment in South Africa's current immigration debate. Whether this Thursday demonstrations grow into one of the country's largest sustained protest movements or gradually lose momentum will depend on many factors, including public participation, government response, and developments on the ground. But one thing is already clear. The immigration debate in South Africa is no longer a temporary political story. It has become a defining national conversation. South Africans deserve secure borders. They also deserve social stability. Lawful migrants deserve protection under the law. Governments deserve the opportunity to explain and defend their policies. None of these principles are mutually exclusive. The real challenge is ensuring they coexist. If weekly protests continue, the coming months will test not only South Africa's immigration policy, but also the strength of its democracy, its constitutions, and its commitment to the rule of law. What do you think? Should South Africa continue allowing weekly anti-migrant protests? Or should government act more decisively to prevent growing social tensions? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this report informative, please like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth analysis of Africa's biggest story. Many thanks for watching.